The desperate plea. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Geneva Defense Complex when the first alien ship appeared in Earth's sky. It wasn't the graceful arrival humanity had dreamed of for centuries. The vessel limped through the atmosphere, trailing smoke and sparks, its hull scarred by weapons that left wounds like molten glass. Admiral Sarah Chun stood at the observation deck of the Global Defense Council headquarters, watching the alien craft struggle to maintain altitude. Her reflection in the reinforced glass showed a woman in her 40s, silver threading through. Her black hair, eyes that had seen too many battles and learned to expect the worst. She had commanded Earth's Titan fleet for 8 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The alien ship crashed into Lake Geneva with a thunderous splash that shook the building. Emergency teams were already mobilizing, but Chun knew this wasn't just another incident. The ship's design was unlike anything in Earth's databases, its technology clearly advanced beyond human capability. More importantly, it had come alone and wounded. Admiral Chun to the emergency council chamber. Came the announcement over the intercom. She straightened her uniform and walked briskly through the corridors, her mind already racing through possibilities and protocols. The council chamber buzzed with activity. Holographic displays showed the crashed vessel, now partially submerged, while technicians worked frantically to establish communication. President Martinez looked up as Chun entered, his face grave. "Sarah, we need your assessment. Our xenobiology team is en route, but we need to know if this is a threat or an opportunity." Before Chun could respond, the main screen flickered. To life, a face appeared, humanoid but clearly alien. The being's skin had a blue-gray tint, with large, luminous eyes that seemed to hold depths of exhaustion and desperation. When it spoke, the universal translator struggled to keep up. "I am Ambassador Zeethkar of the Kelthani Empire. Please, I must speak with your leaders. Time is running short." Chun stepped forward. "I'm Admiral Sarah Chun of Earth's Global Defense. Council, what brings you to our world, Ambassador?" Zeethkar's expression shifted, showing what might have been relief. "Admiral, I have traveled further than any of my people have ever gone, seeking help from a species we have only heard whispers about. The humans of Earth. They say you are warriors who never surrender, who find victory where others see only defeat." The room fell silent. President Martinez leaned forward. "Ambassador, what kind of help do you need?" The alien's image wavered as his ship's power fluctuated. "Our galaxy is dying, consumed by an ancient enemy we call the Voidborn. They are not like us, not like you. They are entropy given form, darkness that devours light, matter, and life itself. We have fought them for 50 of your years, and we are losing." Chun felt a chill run down her spine. "How many worlds have you lost? Half our empire, billions of lives. Our greatest ships, our most advanced weapons, our finest warriors, all consumed by the void. We are the last fleet of the Kelthani Empire, and we are not enough." The silence stretched until President Martinez broke it. "Why come to Earth? We're not even a spacefaring civilization by galactic standards." Zeethkar's eyes brightened slightly. "Because you are unpredictable. Every species in the galaxy follows logical patterns, predictable strategies. The Voidborn adapt to our methods, learn our weaknesses, and overcome our defenses. But humans ... Humans are chaos. Beautiful, creative chaos. You win battles you should lose, survive when you should die, and find solutions where others see only problems." Chun exchanged glances with the other council members. "What exactly are you asking of us? Your ships, your warriors. You're impossible. Human stubbornness." Zeethkar's voice carried a note of desperation. "We have technology to share, knowledge of the galaxy, but we need your tactical brilliance. We need humans to teach us how to be unpredictable." The debate that followed lasted 6 hours. Some council members argued that Earth couldn't risk involvement in an alien war. Others pointed out that if this void-born threat was real, it would eventually reach Earth anyway. Chun listened to it all, her mind working through the strategic implications. Finally, President Martinez called for silence. Admiral Chun, your recommendation? Chun stood, her decision already made. We help them. Not because we have to, but because it's the right thing to do. If we wait for the threat to reach us, we'll be fighting alone. If we act now, we have allies and advance warning. And if we lose? Asked Defense Secretary Kumar. Chun's smile was cold as space. Then we lose fighting, not hiding. I'd rather die standing than live on my knees. The vote was close, but it passed. Earth would mobilize its Titan fleet to help the Kelthani Empire against the Voidborn. 2 days later, the Prometheus soared through the void toward the Kelthani rendezvous point. The flagship of the Titan fleet was a masterpiece of human engineering, combining raw power with elegant design. Its hull gleamed with adaptive armor that could shift from stealth black to brilliant white, depending on tactical needs. Captain Marcus Stone stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak past. He was a veteran of the Mars Rebellion and the Asteroid Wars, his face weathered by years of void duty. At 52, he was considered old for a ship captain, but his experience was invaluable. Admiral on deck, announced Lieutenant Torres as Chun entered the bridge. Status report, Captain, Chun said, settling into her command chair. All systems green, Admiral. The rest of the fleet is maintaining formation. We should reach the Kelthani coordinates in 18 hours. Chun nodded and activated the ship-wide communication system. All hands, this is Admiral Chun. We are about to engage an enemy unlike anything humanity has faced before. The Kelthani Empire, with all their advanced technology and military might, has been fighting the Voidborn for 50 years and losing. They've come to us not because we're the strongest, but because we're different. She paused, looking out at the stars. What makes us different isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our refusal to accept defeat. It's our ability to find hope in the darkest moments and victory in the most impossible circumstances. We are the species that looked at the vast, hostile universe and decided to explore it anyway. We are the people who turned deserts into gardens and darkness into light. The bridge crew listened intently as Chun continued. The Voidborn may be ancient and powerful, but they've never faced humanity before. They've never encountered a species that wins through sheer stubborn determination. Today, we're going to show them what humans can do when we set our minds to it. As the Prometheus and its escort fleet approached the Kelthani rendezvous point, long-range sensors detected the alien fleet. What they found was heartbreaking. The proud Kelthani Empire had been reduced to fewer than 100 ships, most showing signs of damage and hasty repairs. High Counselor Veltan's flagship, the Eternal Dawn, was a magnificent vessel despite its battle scars. The Kelthani leader welcomed the human delegation aboard, his tall, graceful form moving with the dignity of a being who had seen his civilization's greatest triumphs and darkest hours. Admiral Chun, Veltan said, his voice carrying the weight of authority and desperation. I confess, when Ambassador Zethkar first proposed seeking human aid, I was skeptical. Your species is young, your technology primitive by our standards, but desperation makes philosophers of us all. Chun studied the alien leader, noting the intelligence in his large eyes and the proud set of his shoulders despite his peoples. Dire circumstances. Counselor, we may be young and primitive, but we have something your enemy hasn't encountered before, the human factor. Explain this human factor, Veltan requested. Dr. Elena Vasquez, Chun's chief science officer, stepped forward. A brilliant woman in her 30s, with an insatiable curiosity about alien technology. She had been studying the Kalfani data since their arrival. Counselor, every species in the galaxy appears to follow predictable patterns. Your military tactics, while sophisticated, are based on logical principles that can be analyzed and countered. The Voidborn have had 50 years to study your methods. Humans, Shun continued, don't always follow logical patterns. We improvise, we take risks that make no sense, and we refuse to accept that something is impossible. When faced with superior force, we don't just fight harder, we fight differently. Commander Jake Ghost Sullivan, leader of the Titan Fleet's elite fighter squadrons, grinned. What the Admiral is saying, Counselor, is that we're crazy enough to try things that shouldn't work. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. Ghost was known throughout the fleet for his unorthodox tactics and his ability to pull victory from certain defeat. His calsign came from his habit of appearing where the enemy least expected him, striking hard and vanishing before they could respond. Velton looked at the assembled humans with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. I pray you are right, Admiral. The Voidborn are unlike any enemy we have faced. They do not seek conquest or resources. They seek only to unmake what has been made, to return the universe to the cold darkness from which it came. Then we'll just have to remind them that light always pushes back the dark, Shun replied. Show us what we're facing, Counselor. It's time to plan the impossible. As the mixed fleet of human and Kalthani ships prepared for the journey to the front lines, Chun stood alone in her quarters, looking out at the stars. Tomorrow, they would face an enemy that had conquered half a galaxy. Tomorrow, they would discover if human unpredictability was enough to turn the tide of a war that had raged for 50 years. Tomorrow, they would find out if legends could be made in the cold void of space. The Prometheus and its escort fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes of 2 species and the promise of a battle that would echo through the galaxy. Behind them, Earth continued its quiet orbit around the sun, unaware that its children were about to write a new chapter in the story of what it meant to be human. The war against the Voidborn was about to begin, and humanity was ready to show the galaxy what they were truly capable when pushed to their limits. The battle for survival, the combined fleet, dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Veltar system, and Admiral Sarah Chun immediately understood why the Kalthani Empire was losing the war. What she saw through the Prometheus's viewports defied everything humanity knew about space warfare. The Voidborn weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were massive, organic-looking entities that seemed to absorb light itself, creating holes in space where stars should have been visible. They moved with fluid grace, like cosmic predators hunting through an ocean of darkness. Worst of all, there were hundreds of them, swarming around the dying Kalthani colonies like antibodies attacking an infection. "Dear God," whispered Captain Stone, his weathered face pale as he stared at the tactical display. "How do you fight something like that?" High Counselor Veltan's voice came through the communication system, heavy with 50 years of futile struggle. "They consume energy, Admiral Chun. Our plasma weapons feed them. Our shields strengthen them. Every conventional tactic we attempt only makes them more powerful." Chun studied the sensor readings, her mind racing. The void-born entities registered as masses of exotic matter that shouldn't exist according to human physics. They weren't just ships or creatures, they were tears. In reality itself, entropy given form and purpose. "Dr. Vasquez, analysis," Chun ordered. Elena Vasquez's fingers flew across her console, her scientific mind trying to process the impossible data. "Admiral, these entities appear to be composed of dark matter arranged in coherent patterns. They're not just consuming energy, they're converting organized matter back into primordial chaos. It's like they're trying to reverse the Big Bang one-star system at a time." Commander Ghost Sullivan's voice crackled over the cum from his fighter bay. Admiral, with respect, I don't care what they're made of. How do we kill them? Before Chun could respond, the Voidborn noticed the new arrivals. 3 of the massive entities broke away from their assault on the Kalthani colonies and began moving toward the combined fleet. They didn't accelerate, they simply appeared closer with each passing moment, as if distance meant nothing to them. All ships, evasive maneuvers, Shun commanded. Kalthani vessels, fall back to secondary positions. Titan fleet, advance and engage. The human ships surged forward, their sleek forms cutting through space like silver arrows. The Prometheus led the charge, its advanced targeting systems locking on to the approaching Voidborn. But as they closed distance, something extraordinary happened. The lead Voidborn entity suddenly stopped. It hung motionless in space, as if confused by the human approach. For the first time in 50 years of warfare, it had encountered something it couldn't predict. Admiral, Dr. Vasquez said, excitement creeping into her voice. I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations in the Voidborn. It's like they're trying to analyze our technology and failing. Our chaotic human engineering doesn't follow the logical patterns they're used to. Chun smiled grimly. Then let's give them something really chaotic to think about. Ghost, you're cleared for Operation Madness. Copy that, Admiral. All fighters, this is Ghost Leader. Remember, we're not trying to be smart here. We're trying to be crazy. The fighter squadrons launched from their carriers, but instead of forming the precise attack formations the Kalthani used, they scattered in seemingly random directions. Ghost Squadron performed barrel rolls for no tactical reason, fired their weapons at empty space, and flew patterns that made no sense to any logical military mind. The Voidborn entities began to writhe and pulse, their dark forms rippling with confusion. They had spent 50 years learning to counter Kalthani tactics, adapting to every strategy and weapon. But they couldn't adapt to chaos, couldn't predict the unpredictable. Captain Stone watched the tactical display with amazement. Admiral, the Voidborn are actually retreating from our fighter screen. It's like they don't know how to respond to random behavior. That's because randomness is antithetical to their nature, Dr. Vasquez explained. They're creatures of entropy, but entropy follows mathematical rules. True randomness, true creativity, that's something they've never encountered. Chun seized the moment. All ships implement doctrine insanity. No coordinated attacks, no logical patterns. Every ship fights independently using whatever tactics they feel like. Make it up as you go along. What followed was the most bizarre space battle in galactic history. Human ships attacked from impossible angles, used their weapons in ways that violated every military manual, and performed maneuvers that served no apparent tactical purpose. The cruiser Valkyrie fired its main guns while spinning like a top. The destroyer Fenris rammed a Voidborn entity at full speed, survived the impact through sheer luck, and then fired point-blank into the creature's core. The Voidborn, ancient and powerful as they were, simply had no framework for understanding the human approach to warfare. They tried to adapt, to find patterns in the chaos, but humans kept changing the rules faster than the entities could process. Commander Ghost Sullivan's voice came through the comms, breathless with excitement. Admiral, you need to see this. The Voidborn are actually flickering. Whatever they're made of, our unpredictability is destabilizing their quantum matrices. Chun watched in amazement as one of the massive entities began to convulse, its dark form rippling like water. Dr. Vasquez, are you getting this? Admiral, I think I understand now, Elena said, her voice filled with scientific wonder. The Voidborn aren't just creatures. They're living equations, mathematical constructs made manifest. They can process and counter any logical system, but chaos breaks their fundamental programming. The tide of battle began to turn. Where this Kelthani had fought with disciplined precision for 50 years and lost. The humans fought with creative madness and started winning. The void-born entities that had seemed invincible began to withdraw, their forms becoming less stable as they struggled to process the human tactical approach. But the enemy wasn't finished. The largest void-born entity, easily the size of a space station, began to pulse with malevolent energy. When it spoke, its voice resonated directly in the minds of every human and Kelthani in the fleet. Chaotic ones. You bring disorder to the perfect equation. This cannot be permitted. The entity began to change, its dark mass reorganizing into something that resembled a weapon of impossible size. Energy crackled along its surface, and the space around it began to warp and twist. All ships, emergency retreat, Chun ordered. But it was too late. The void-born weapon fired, and reality itself seemed to scream. The beam missed the main fleet, but it struck the Kelthani research vessel, Seeker of Truth. The ship didn't explode, it simply ceased to exist, erased from the universe, as if it had never been built. Admiral, Ghost's voice was tight with control. Fear. We need a new kind of crazy for this one. Chun stared at the massive void-born entity, her mind working furiously. Then she smiled, the expression so cold it made Captain Stone shiver. Dr. Vasquez, can you reconfigure our main weapon to fire in a completely random sequence? Not just unpredictable targeting. I want the energy output to fluctuate chaotically. No two shots the same. Admiral, it violates every principle of weapons safety. The gun could overload. The ship could... Doctor, Sean interrupted. Can you do it? Elena's fingers flew over her console. Modifying firing protocols now. Admiral, this is either brilliant or insane. Sometimes there's no difference, Sean replied. All ships, target the large entity with everything you have. Fire at random intervals with random power settings. Make it impossible for them to calculate. Our attack patterns. The human fleet opened fire, their weapons blazing with chaotic energy. Some shots were barely visible, others lit up space like miniature suns. The firing pattern had no rhythm, no logic, no predictable sequence. The massive, void-born entity writhed in apparent agony, its form flickering between states of existence. The chaotic energy patterns were overloading its ability to process and adapt, like trying to solve an equation where the numbers kept changing. It's working, Dr. Vasquez shouted. The entity's quantum matrix is destabilizing. The random energy patterns are creating recursive feedback loops in its computational core. But victory came at a cost. The Prometheus shuddered as its main weapon overloaded, systems failing throughout the ship. Other human vessels were suffering similar damage from their modified weapons. Admiral, Captain Stone reported, we're losing structural integrity. The ship can't take much more of this. Chun watched the void-born entity writhe and pulse, its form becoming increasingly unstable. She made a decision that would echo through galactic history. All ships ramming speed. If we're going down, we're taking that thing with us. The human fleet surged forward, their damaged vessels accelerating toward the massive void-born entity. But instead of the coordinated attack the entity might have expected, each ship approached from a different angle, at a different speed, creating a chaotic swarm that the creature couldn't counter. At the last moment, the void-born entity's form collapsed inward, imploding under the weight of its own confused calculations. The other entities in the system immediately began to retreat, their quantum matrices unable to process what they had witnessed. As the surviving human and Kelthani ships regrouped, High Counselor Veltan's voice came through the communication system, filled with awe and gratitude. Admiral Chun, in 50 years of warfare, we have never seen the void-born retreat. You have accomplished in one battle what our greatest minds could not achieve in half a century. Chun slumped in her command chair, exhausted but victorious. Counselor, we didn't win through superior technology or tactics. We won because we refused to fight their war on their terms. Ghost's voice came through the comm, tired but triumphant. Admiral, sensors show the remaining Voidborn are in full retreat. Whatever we did to their big friend has them spooked. Dr. Vasquez looked up from her instruments, her face glowing with scientific excitement. Admiral, I'm detecting quantum resonance patterns spreading through the Voidborn network. Our chaotic attack didn't just defeat one entity, created a virus of unpredictability that's spreading through their entire collective consciousness. The implications were staggering. The Voidborn, ancient and powerful as they were, had been stopped by the one thing they couldn't understand: human creativity and the willingness to embrace chaos over order. As news of the victory spread through the galaxy, other species began to take notice. The humans, these young and primitive beings from a backwater world, had accomplished what the greatest civilizations in the galaxy had failed to do. They had found a weakness in an enemy that had seemed invincible. Admiral Sarah Chun stood on the bridge of the damaged but victorious Prometheus, looking out at the stars that no longer seemed quite so hostile. Humanity had passed its first test on the galactic stage, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple act of helping those in need. The war against the Voidborn was far from over, but for the first time in 50 years, the galaxy had hope. And at the center of that hope stood humanity, chaotic, unpredictable, and absolutely unwilling to accept defeat. The legends were just beginning.